Namaskar and welcome. You're watching Midday Prime. Addressing the nation, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday reassured the countrymen that government's committed resolve to deal with the pandemic, especially stating that the imposition of lockdown is the last option and that the centre, state governments as well as private sector are working together to meet the oxygen demands and also augment COVID medical infrastructure across the country. We're going to talk about the larger messaging of Prime Minister Modi's COVID address yesterday. On the Midday Prime, we will also be taking a look at the accelerated efforts made by the several state governments to break the chain of corona infection by getting you some ground reports from Delhi, Mumbai as well as Bangalore. I'm Sakal Bhatt, and first up on Midday Prime, here are the headlines. Prime Minister Modi addresses the nation on the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the country, reiterates government's accelerated efforts at all levels to deal with the pandemic, assures citizens of measures taken to ensure availability of oxygen and hospital beds, says lockdown in any part should be used as the last resort, calls upon state governments to ensure daily wage labourers are least affected due to restrictions. In a positive development, an ICMR study shows Covaxin is effective against multiple variants of coronavirus. Study also shows that the vaccine effectively neutralizes double mutant strain as well. And in another significant development, vaccine front, Serum Institute of India announces price of Covishield vaccine to be available at ₹400 per dose for state governments and ₹600 per dose for private hospitals. Government steps up fight to beat pandemic. COVID-19 insurance scheme under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan package for healthcare workers fighting COVID-19 extended for a period of 1 year. Imports of remdesivir API injection and specific inputs made import duty free. Several states and union territories adopt lockdown strategy to break the chain of COVID infections. Puducherry announces lockdown. Karnataka imposes night curfew. Meanwhile, vaccination continues in the country at full speed. India becomes the fastest country to administer 13 crore doses in just 95 days. Assam, UP announces free vaccine to all above 18 years. And Ram Navami being celebrated across the country today. President, Vice President, Prime Minister and others extend greetings on the occasion. Prime Minister reminds everyone to keep the mantra of Dawai Bhi Kadai Bhi in mind. And also today is Civil Services Day. President and Prime Minister extend greetings to all civil servants on the occasion. President appreciates civil servants for being the backbone of the fight against COVID-19. Prime Minister says civil servants are working tirelessly to help citizens and enhance national progress. And in international news, a 12-member Minneapolis jury finds ex-policeman Derek Chauvin guilty of the murder of George Floyd. US President Joe Biden terms the verdict a giant step forward in the march towards justice in America. And in sports, following immense anger and criticism from across the world, English clubs decide to withdraw from European Super League. All 6 English clubs confirm they have initiated procedures for leaving ESL. ESL says they are focusing on reshaping the project. And we begin with Prime Minister's almost 20-minute COVID address to the nation yesterday, which in fact sent a very reassuring message to the nation, calling the option to impose lockdown and similar restrictions to be seen as a last resort. Now, Prime Minister said that the nation has to be saved from the lockdown, and in the fight against corona, he further advised states to concentrate on identifying micro-containment zones to defeat the second wave of this deadly virus.
आज की स्थिति में हमें देश को लॉकडाउन से बचाना है, मैं राज्यों से भी अनुरोध करूंगा कि वो लॉकडाउन को अंतिम विकल्प के रूप में ही इस्तेमाल करें। लॉकडाउन से बचने की भरपूर कोशिश करनी है और माइक्रो कंटेनमेंट जोन पर ही ध्यान केंद्रित करना है। हम अपनी अर्थव्यवस्था की सेहत भी सुधारेंगे और देशवासियों की सेहत का भी ध्यान रखेंगे।
In fact, on the issue of oxygen demand, Prime Minister said that the government is working on war footing to ensure availability of adequate oxygen and bed availability in hospitals. The Prime Minister said that through proactive measures and steps taken by the centre over the last few days, as well as private sector has also been roped in the process.
कोरोना संकट में देश के अनेक हिस्से में ऑक्सीजन की डिमांड बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ी है। इस विषय पर तेजी से और पूरी संवेदनशीलता के साथ काम किया जा रहा है। केंद्र सरकार, राज्य सरकारें, प्राइवेट सेक्टर सभी की पूरी कोशिश है कि हर जरूरतमंद को ऑक्सीजन मिले। ऑक्सीजन प्रोडक्शन और सप्लाई को बढ़ाने के लिए भी कई स्तरों पर उपाय किए जा रहे हैं। राज्यों में नए ऑक्सीजन प्लांट्स हो, 1 लाख नए सिलेंडर पहुंचाने हो, औद्योगिक इकाइयों में इस्तेमाल हो रही ऑक्सीजन का मेडिकल इस्तेमाल हो, ऑक्सीजन रेल हो, हर प्रयास किया जा रहा है।
In fact, PM has called upon the state governments to urge the migrant workers to stay where they are, and this trust given by the states to the workers will help them, and that they will be vaccinated in the city wherever they are.
प्रयास से भी ये है कि आर्थिक गतिविधियां और आजीविका कम से कम प्रभावित हो। प्रयास का तरीका यही रखा जाए। वैक्सीनेशन को 18 वर्ष की आयु के ऊपर के लोगों के लिए ओपन करने से शहरों में जो हमारे वर्कफोर्स है उसे तेजी से वैक्सीन उपलब्ध होगी। राज्यों और केंद्र सरकार के प्रयासों से श्रमिकों को भी तेजी से वैक्सीन मिले लगेगी। मेरा राज्य प्रशासन से आग्रह है कि वो श्रमिकों का भरोसा जगाए रखे। उनसे आग्रह करें कि वो जहां है वहीं रहे। राज्यों द्वारा दिया गया ये भरोसा उनकी बहुत मदद करेगा कि वो जिस शहर में है वहीं पर अगले कुछ दिनों में वैक्सीन भी लगेगी और उनका काम भी बंद नहीं होगा।
And Prime Minister Modi requested various media channels for responsible reportage so as not to create panic among people.
प्रचार माध्यमों से भी मेरी प्रार्थना है कि ऐसे संकट की घड़ी में वो लोगों को सतर्क और जागरूक करने के लिए जो प्रयास कर रहे हैं उसे और बढ़ाएं। इसके साथ ही इसके लिए भी काम करें कि डर का माहौल कम हो सके, लोग अफवाह और भ्रम में न आए।
And now moving on to our national prime segment. In National Prime segment on Midday Prime, let's first look at the numbers. India continues to battle COVID-19. We take a look at the COVID-19 update coming from across the country. As per the Union Health Ministry, 2,95,000 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours. 1,67,457 recoveries recorded in the last 24 hours, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 1,32,76,039. And with this, the recovery rate currently stands at 85.56%. India's total active caseload stands at over 21.57 lakh today. The country's present active caseload consists of 13.26% of the total positive cases. The fatality rate stands at 1.18%. Notably, India has crossed a landmark milestone in COVID-19 vaccination, recording over 13 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses being administered so far, and 13 crore 1,19,310 vaccination doses have been given so far, while 29,90,197 doses were given yesterday. And with this, India has become fastest country to achieve milestone in just 95 days. And shifting focus to Delhi, where Delhi recorded 28,395 corona cases, the highest figure since the pandemic broke out in January last year, taking the city's tally of infections to 9,05,541. The toll went up by 277 to 12,638, while the positivity rate jumped to 32.82%. Now there are 85,575 active cases in the city. 85,575 people have recovered also from the disease so far. The national capital is under a 6-day lockdown from 10 p.m. which was imposed on Monday due to the massive surge in COVID-19 cases. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal had said the time would be to scale up arrangements for oxygen, medicines and hospital beds in the city. That time will be utilized to basically augment the Delhi medical infrastructure. Meanwhile, according to the ICMR, or Indian Council of Medical Research, as many as 27 crore 10,53,392 samples have been tested across the country up so far. Out of this, 16,39,357 samples were tested yesterday. And some good news coming in. Bharat Biotech's Covaxin neutralizes multiple variants of the coronavirus and effectively neutralizes the double mutant strain, as well as ICMR study. This is what they have just, in fact, said. It's a statement, I believe, that has been released. In fact, we're going to get you more details on that big breakthrough announced by Covaxin. Meanwhile, let's talk about, in line with Prime Minister Modi's priority to ensure affordable medical care for COVID-19 patients, the government has withdrawn 10% customs duty levied on COVID-19 drug Remdesivir API, injection and specific inputs. Custom duty has been waived off on Remdesivir active pharmaceutical ingredients, injection Remdesivir and beta-cyclodextrin, which is used in manufacturing of Remdesivir. And this move would help augment domestic availability and reduce cost of the injection, thus providing relief to the patients. Now, the order will remain enforced up to and inclusive of 31st October this year. Earlier this month, the centre banned export of the injection and its APIs till the situation improved. Now let's shift focus to certain states. Up first, Karnataka, where the state government has decided to impose night curfew in view of the rising cases of COVID-19. Night curfew will be imposed from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. from today till 4th of May. During the night curfew, cinema halls, gyms, bars, pubs and assembly halls will remain closed. Apart from the night curfew, weekend curfew will be imposed from Friday to Monday. From 9 to 6, that is 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. This decision was taken following a virtual all-party meeting chaired by Governor Vajubhai Wala along with the Chief Minister B.S. Yedurappa to discuss the prevailing COVID situation in the state amid spike in cases, positive cases. Restaurants, eateries are permitted to operate and only take home parcels, and that's something that would be allowed. My colleague Ayesha Khanam is joining us from Bangalore to give us an update on how Karnataka overall, the situation out there now. Karnataka, the state government has decided to impose night curfew, Ayesha, and weekend lockdown. I mean, just first of all, give us an overview. of the kind of surge that we have seen in Karnataka and the arrangements put in place, especially Yadurappa promised the people out there that the medical infrastructure would be augmented. Is all that happening on ground?
Well, Sakal, Karnataka government is working round the clock to ramp up the medical infrastructure, and the Chief Minister had promised that he will not go in for a lockdown in the state. Instead, he will strengthen the medical infrastructure and try and increase the bed facilities in the hospitals, and also assure that the private hospitals give beds to the people who are in need of the oxygen beds and ICU units. So in this direction, the Chief Minister is already working, and also the shortage of oxygen supply is being met by diverting the industrial oxygen from Bellary steel plant. The Jindal steel plant is in talks with the Karnataka state government, and they have promised that the oxygen supply will be given for the medical purpose from the steel plant. So this is one assurance that the Karnataka government has given. But the fact that there is still shortage of beds, there are still people suffering due to lack of ventilators and oxygen facility in the hospitals. This is one stark reality that the government knows that it is staring at. But the fact that the government will have to now brace up and work on a war footing to give relief to the people reaching out to the hospitals. But on the other hand, the government is also grappling with the situation in the labs. The testing numbers have gone up. In the past 2 weeks, the Karnataka positivity rate has gone up beyond 13%.
Okay,
So
that's a worrisome point.
Yesterday itself, it crossed 21. Yes, absolutely. And it crossed 21,000 in 24 hours yesterday, breaking all the records of the steepest hike in the state. So the government is worried about this. The labs are loaded. The results are not being given to the people within 8 hours. The people have to wait for results for up to 5 days. So the government is now trying to strengthen the IT network. Remember, the Karnataka government had excellent IT network in the first phase, where there were apps, there were websites, but now these IT networks are also overloaded. So the government is working on working around the clock, on one hand to ramp up the medical infrastructure at the hospitals, and on the other hand to give a boost to the IT network, wherein the samples, the results of the samples collected can be loaded faster. People can get to know the results faster, and they can isolate themselves and stop the spread of the infections. So these are the steps that we are seeing on ground. But yes, the government does not hide away from the fact that it is a very challenging situation before it, and the government says that in another 2 days, it will the government will hope to provide some relief. So all that setup is in place. Once the oxygen storage facilities are set up, the hospital beds are increased in hospitals, and then the labs wherein the technology network will be strengthened. So the government seeks about 2 days time to put all this infrastructure in place and hopes to give relief to the people, and assures that that there is no need to panic, as it is working around the clock.
What's the sense, Aisha, you've been getting? You've been tracking it and following it up very closely. Curfew, night curfew and weekend lockdown, do you think this would suffice? The spike in numbers that we have seen, and the fact that the state government on record has agreed that the situation is bad, but ensuring at the same time that the system should not crumble under pressure.
Yes, absolutely, Sakal. The government had imposed night curfew in Bangalore and also 8 districts earlier. It was on from past 1 week, but now the government has extended the timing from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. So the government hopes that the number of people restricted from moving across will kind of break the chain. And as we have been talking about this earlier also, the government was not in favor of the lockdown at all, because the government has from the beginning indicated that lockdown is not the solution, because this will burden the poorer section of the society. And also some of the elected representatives had asked the government, in case there is a lockdown, the government should be ready to part with some amount in the account of these daily wage workers so that they can deal with the lockdown during that period. But the government says it is not in position to do that. So therefore, the government says that instead of lockdown, the entire force will be diverted towards strengthening the medical
Yes.
infrastructure, strengthening the network of medical system, and then it can help people
Yes.
in this way. So lockdown
So Karnataka government chooses not to adopt a lockdown strategy as put forth by Aisha Khanum there, Aisha, but instead, focusing on augmenting the medical infrastructure, firming it up further. Right, Aisha, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for joining us, and please take care of yourself as well. And from Karnataka, let's shift focus to Maharashtra. Now, Maharashtra continues to witness huge surge in COVID cases in Maharashtra. The state government has given enough indications that it may finally have to take a call to induce lockdown in the states to arrest the spiraling rise. In the state cabinet meeting, all the ministers have requested Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray to impose a lockdown in the state. A decision is likely to be announced by Uddhav Thackeray today evening, reportedly. And on the vaccine front, nearly 1 crore 30 vaccination doses have been administered till 20th April in Maharashtra. Let me quickly go across to
लॉकडाउन के बारे में माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी ने निर्णय लिया है, लेकिन उसकी घोषणा वे स्वयं करेंगे और उसके बारे में वे स्वयं उसके बारे में निर्णय लेंगे। मंत्रिमंडल ने उनके ऊपर पूरा सौंपा है, लेकिन मंत्रिमंडल ने एकजुट होकर एक ही मांग की है कि लॉकडाउन बहुत स्ट्रिक्टली होना चाहिए।
Okay, my colleague Shishir joins us from Mumbai Live to tell us more about the situation prevailing on ground. All right, and Tapas also is with us. I'm going to come to you, Tapas, because you've got the big breaking. But before that, let me quickly get an update from Shishir. Shishir, so is this final that there's going to be a huge lockdown, massive lockdown in Maharashtra, and it is just a matter of announcement? But you know, the larger question is that state knew, Uddhav Thackre's administration knew what they are dealing with, and were they not prepared to handle the situation enough?
Well, sir, as far as the decision is concerned, this was a quite a long pending decision. I'm saying it long pending is because looking at these numbers, basically, these numbers increasing day by day continuously, and the state government and the authority are not able to reduce these numbers or contain these numbers, and ultimately you have left with one choice, and that is a complete lockdown. Well, before this, we have seen here that state government have actually imposed various restrictions. They called it weekend lockdown, a mini lockdown. Strict restrictions also been put at various places in Maharashtra. In spite of all these efforts, we have seen that number have been increasing here. The numbers goes to around 50,000, 60,000 per day. Yesterday's figures were around 62,000 here. So obviously, when you have such a humongous numbers, then you need to take some of strict actions, and that's what the government probably is thinking about. Yesterday's cabinet meeting, all the ministers echoed the same demand that complete lockdown is a need of the hour, and this has been conveyed to the Chief Minister. Now, of course, what are the modalities here? What the state government will do under the strict lockdown is an important question. Need to be answered here. Obviously, what we've got to know also is that, and what as per the new amendment that the state government came out with, is that now the shops are allowed to operate between 7 a.m. till 11 a.m. That means the morning 4 hours, the shops is allowed to open. And the essential services like the medical stores will be open throughout the day here. But the other grocery stores and everything will be closed down for the day.
Very quickly,
except
what's
the
the
morning
sense?
hours
You've
that
been
will be given
reporting
to them.
extensively
So that is
over
one
the last few weeks.
important aspect here.
Yeah, Shishir, very quickly,
The other
what's
important aspect.
Shishir, can you hear me? Very quickly, what's the sense you are getting? You've been reporting very extensively. Was this lockdown essential? This should have come earlier, because Maharashtra has never seen dip in numbers. It's always the cases have escalated, and they continue to escalate.
Well, at this point in time, it looks like that lockdown is very essential here. Well, obviously, state government was quite skeptical about the lockdown, whether to impose the lockdown or not, because the numbers they were looking for actually to try to reduce it, to reduce the number by increasing the capacity also. But at the same time, the numbers are increasing exponentially, and that's the reason at this point in time, even the medical infrastructure is not enough for this number.
All right, Shishir, stay with us. Let me quickly go to my colleague Tapash Bhattacharya. First up on that bit, the ICMR study declaring that Covaxin is going to be effective against multiple variants of coronavirus, and I think that's a huge breakthrough. Tapas, more please.
Yes, Sakal. Amidst all the mayhem that is currently going on, there's a bit of a good news coming in from the ICMR and National Institute of Virology. They have come out with a detailed report. They have said that they have isolated and cultured the multiple variants of the SARS variants, be it the UK variant, be it the South African variant, and also the multi-strain variant that they have been talking about. They have cultured it and they have isolated it. And according to the report that they have come out with, they have said that the Covaxin is successful against the UK variant as well as against the Brazilian variant, and it has demonstrated the neutralization value, potential of the vaccine in these particular variants. They have also said that the multiple, the double mutant that we were talking about, the double mutation of the SARS virus that has seen the number of cases escalating, especially in the second wave. They have also managed to isolate that and culture that. It is very important when we are talking about this kind of viruses. One has to do a genome sequencing. They have to isolate it. They have to culture it, and they have found that even Covaxin is very much effective against the double mutant virus. So what it in short, what it means is that once you get the jab of the Covaxin, it will help you in against these kind of viruses, which are kind of right now mutating and showing different signs. So in that sense, a huge sign of relief for the scientific community as well as for doctors who now will be will be going gung-ho in providing these vaccines to each and every individual. Remember, on 1st of May, the government has already started vaccination drive for all individuals over the age of 18. So this particular news will go a long way in making those in helping those people making up their mind and coming out with a gung-ho approach about vaccination. So this is a great news for all those people.
You know, you have that statement with you. If you could just elaborate a bit further and read out certain excerpts, that's very important. It's a big breakthrough for not only for the scientific community, but what a huge relief for those who are grappling with COVID infections and this being multiple variant compliant. I think that's big.
That's absolutely, and let me just tell you the exact thing, that the two lines that are very important and that ICMR has said, and basically National Institute of Virology have come out. They say that they have successfully isolated and cultured the multiple variants of concern SARS-CoV-2, and the viruses are B11.7, that is the UK variant, the B11.28, that is the Brazilian variant, and B1.351, that is the South African variant. And they said that NIV has demonstrated the neutralization potential of Covaxin against the UK variant, which is in the Journal of Travel Medicine, volume 28, issue which 2nd March 2021, and the Brazilian variant, which is already there in the manuscript also. So this is the one part. The second part, they have said that the Covaxin has also been found effectively neutralize the double mutant strain also, especially the one B1617. This is the double mutant strain that we are talking about. So they've made it, they have cultured it, they have successfully isolated it, and then they have tested it, and they have found that against this particular double mutant, Covaxin has also found to be very much successful. That says a lot, about India's Indian scientific community.
Absolutely.
Wherewithal in showcasing to the world that they have a product, they have a vaccine that is at par, if not the best in the world at this particular moment.
Well, that's what the ICMR study confirms, that it could be just a matter of time, Tapash, that this Covaxin, this version of Covaxin would be induced in the vaccination drive for inoculation. Tapash, I'm requesting you to, in fact, thank you as of now. I'm going to come back to you when we get back to our Delhi report. Meanwhile, thank you very much. Let me quickly go back to Shishir. Shishir, now since I was talking to Tapash about the vaccination, even the system, the medical infrastructure in Maharashtra, especially in Mumbai, one of the worst affected districts there, under immense pressure. On the vaccination front, on that augmenting testing, tracing, on that front, what is the government doing?
Well, absolutely, we'll come to the vaccination part, Sakal, but let me tell all the viewers here that one of the unfortunate incident took place in Nasik's Dr. Zakir Naik hospital here. No, in that hospital, we just got to know that one of the oxygen tank got leaked. And that's the reason, according to the municipal commissioner, what he said is that nearly 20 to 23 people were on ventilators in that hospital, out of which 10 to 11 people are feared dead. That's the initial information we are getting from the Nasik. That's the information we got from the municipal commissioner, who said that one of the major oxygen tank in the hospital premises got leaked. And that's the reason the people who were actually on the oxygen and ventilators got a low pressure, out of which nearly 10 to 11 people are feared dead. Actually, that's what the initial information they were getting from the Nasik itself. Now, what's the reason behind this incident? It's still unknown here. But what we got to know is that nearly 50 jumbo oxygen cylinders were sent to Dr. Zakir Naik Hospital in Nasik, as from the from the local authority there, so that the people who have already admitted there, people who required the oxygen and ventilators, should get the supply quite quickly here. And few of them have also been shifted to other hospitals, those who required the oxygen and ventilators. This incident happened around 12:30, just a couple of hours back in Nasik. And immediately after that, the authorities swung into action. As I told you, that the reason is still unknown, that what is the reason. When the Maharashtra is actually struggling with the oxygen, this is one of the unfortunate incidents that we've just seen in Nasik here. Now, obviously, as I'm talking to you, the incident, what's the reason behind it, it's still unknown here.
Right, Shishir.
But what we got to know is that the big oxygen tank in the hospital
Yes, very disturbing news coming from Nashik in Maharashtra, Shishir. And I'll have to thank you for that quick update and also for this latest input. Oxygen tanker leaking while tankers were being filled at Dr. Zakir Hussain Hospital. This is the incident reported in Nashik in Maharashtra. And an operation to contain the leak as we speak is underway. We're going to keep an eye on that development as well. Meanwhile, shifting focus also from Maharashtra to Assam. Amid the massive surge in coronavirus cases, the Assam government has issued a new set of guidelines which was enforced from April 20th and they will remain in effect till April 30th. In the fresh guidelines, it was stated that all marketplaces except chemist shops, shops and malls, weekly markets will be closed by 6 p.m. In the funeral ceremony, not more than 20 people will be allowed. And Assam Health Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma on Wednesday took to Twitter and announced that Assam will give free vaccination to everyone from 18 to 45 years of age. Funds collected in Assam Arogya Nidhi last year shall be utilized for procurement of the vaccines. He added, and on Wednesday, Assam government, that is today, have placed orders for 1 crore doses with Bharat Biotech. And taking to Twitter, Assam Health Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma said that funds collected under Assam Arogya Nidhi last year would be utilized for procurement of vaccine, adding Assam government has written to co-vaccine maker Bharat Biotech for procuring 1 crore vaccines. And now it's time to move to our developing story. Every year, 21st of April is marked as National Civil Services Day to appreciate the tremendous work done by officers engaged in public administration in various departments of the central and state governments. On the occasion, President Ramnath Kovind extended greetings to civil servants. Prime Minister Modi also greeted civil servants on National Civil Services Day today, which is being observed today. Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar has also wished civil servants on the occasion. That's the tweet. Union Minister of State for Development of Northeastern Region, Dr. Jitendra Singh, has also praised civil servants on the National Civil Services Day. Well, earlier we showed you the tweet by Union Minister Prakash Javadekar ji, and now that's the tweet coming in from Dr. Jitendra Singh also via Twitter, hailing the contribution of civil servants in the country, saying India's civil services are contributing substantially. He says Civil Services Day today is the occasion to acknowledge that under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when India is a frontline warrior against corona, India's civil services are doing their bit. And on Civil Services Day, my greetings to civil servants, past and present. A bureaucracy is rightly called the steel frame, quote unquote. That's the President, Honorable President's tweet on the occasion of Civil Services Day, adding, and I quote again, "You've been the backbone of our fight against COVID-19. And you've been the backbone of our fight against COVID-19. You've raised the bar of professional excellence and dedication in public services. All the best." Honorable Prime Minister also taking to Twitter, wishing on Civil Services Day today, 21st of April, saying, and I quote, "Best wishes to all civil servants on the occasion of Civil Services Day in different terrains and across different sectors. They are working tirelessly to help our citizens and enhance national progress. May they keep serving the nation with the same zeal." And now move on to the other stories. In the continuing saga of performing beyond expectations, the Border Roads Organization added another feather in its already studded cap by opening the mighty Zojila Pass on Srinagar-Kargil Road on 21st of April, that's today. Located at a height of 11,650 feet, Zojila is a strategic pass. It provides vital link between Kashmir Valley, Ladakh, and is the key to operational preparedness of the armed forces. The pass normally closes by mid-November every year with the onset of winters when the temperatures dip to sub-0 degrees and opens only by end April next year. Average closure of pass in early years has been 150 days. And now it's time to shift focus to Midday Prime, the news and updates coming in from the world of business. And on Midday Prime, my colleague Tanvi joins us with more. Tanvi, good afternoon. What's up with the world of business?
Good afternoon, Sakil. Greeting to you and our viewers of the auspicious occasion of Ram Navami. So, the domestic stock market, the forex market, the multi-commodity exchange are closed on Wednesday on account of the festival of Ram Navami. On Tuesday, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange lost 244.25% to close at 47,706. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange has ended down 63.4% at 14,296. Shifting our attention to elsewhere in Asia, stocks generally fell on Wednesday as concerns about a resurgence of coronavirus cases in some countries caused doubt on the recovery of global economic growth. MSCI's Broadex Index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan fell 1.1%. Stocks in Tokyo plunged almost 2% on the growing likelihood that Tokyo, Osaka, and surrounding areas will be put under lockdown due to a new wave of coronavirus infections there. We know Japan is facing its fourth wave of coronavirus infections. Analysts said that renewed concerns about the global economic recovery weighed on the market as many countries around the world set new records for COVID-19 infections. But China's stock market recouped early losses and rose 0.3% due to positive earnings from the healthcare and banking sectors. Next, let's also update our viewers on how the US markets are doing. Stocks closed lower on Wall Street on Tuesday, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.8%, the S&P 500 lost 0.7%, the Nasdaq Composite fell 0.9% yesterday, as investors sold airlines and travel-related shares due to fear of a delayed recovery in global tourism. Last, updates on global crude oil prices. Well, they fell for a second day on Wednesday, weighed down by concerns that surging COVID-19 cases in India will drive down fuel demand in the world's third biggest oil importer. Brent crude oil declined 29 cents, or 0.4%, to $66.28 a barrel. US crude fell 34 cents, or 0.5%, to $62.33 a barrel. That's it in Business Prime for now. Over to you, Sakal.
Thank you so much, Tanvi, for that quick update on Business Prime. And now on Midday Prime, let's take a look at what's making news across the globe. Well, former Minneapolis policeman Derek Chauvin was convicted on Tuesday of second-degree murder, third-degree murder and manslaughter in the deadly arrest of George Floyd, deadly murder of George Floyd. The charges carry maximum sentences ranging from 10 to 40 years in prison. The 12-member jury found Chauvin criminally liable in Floyd's death last year after considering 3 weeks of testimony from 45 witnesses, including bystanders, police officials and medical experts. Jurors began their deliberations on Monday, and in confrontation captured in video, Chauvin pushed his knee into the neck of Floyd, a 46-year-old black man in handcuffs, for more than 9 minutes on May 25, 2020, as he and 3 fellow officers arrested Floyd, who was accused of using a fake $20 bill to buy a cigarette at a grocery store. Floyd's death prompted protest against racism and police brutality in many cities in the United States and around the world last year. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has said that a moment of significant change was possible in America after the jury convicted former Minneapolis officer Derek Chauvin of murder in the death of George Floyd. Addressing White House, the U.S. president described it as a giant step forward in the march towards justice in America.
It was a murder in the full light of day, and it ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see. The systemic racism the Vice President just referred to. The systemic racism is a stain on our nation's soul. The knee on the neck of justice for Black Americans. Profound fear and trauma. The pain, the exhaustion that Black and brown Americans experience every single day. No one should be above the law. And today's verdict sends that message. But it's not enough. We can't stop here. In order to deliver real change and reform, we can and we must do more to reduce the likelihood that tragedies like this will ever happen and occur again.
In fact, the family of George Floyd said they were relieved that former policeman Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder in their brother's death. George Floyd's brother, Philonise Floyd, said today that they are able to breathe again. Outside the courthouse, a crowd of several hundred people erupted in cheers when the verdict was announced. Floyd family's attorney Benjamin Crump said they are leaving the court knowing that America is a better country, adding that this moment was important not just for Floyd's legacy, but for the country's legacy. Meanwhile, protesters gathered outside the police department in Columbus in Ohio after officers shot a black 16-year-old girl to death on Tuesday. The incident took place on the day people in the U.S. reacted to the guilty verdict in murder trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin. Meanwhile, Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginter confirmed the fatal shooting, saying on Twitter that a young woman tragically lost her life, adding that there is body-worn camera footage of the incident. And also saying that we are working to review it as soon as possible. That's the tweet from the mayor. He says BCI is on the scene conducting an independent investigation of alleged shooting of 16-year-old girl. Ramesh Ramachandran, my colleague, joins us with more details on that. Well, the timings of it, Ramesh, very sad. I mean, what more can you fill us with?
Well, Sakal, the intersection of racism and law enforcement in the US has always been a fraught one. There have been a number of incidents of racial attacks on the blacks in particular in the US in the last few years, but they've been sporadic. They've been, they've taken place under successive American presidents, including Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and now under Joe Biden. But this verdict potentially can be a watershed moment for the US. Why? Because this incident, to begin with, which happened on 25th May last year, was gruesome, to put it mildly, because the officer in question, who has now been suspended and convicted, had put his knee on the neck of George Floyd, a black man, for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, which led to his asphyxiation leading to a shortage of oxygen and leading to his murder. And as Biden himself said in his intervention yesterday, that this could be a potentially, landmark verdict for the U.S. And in fact, in quote Biden here, he said, it was a murder in the full light of day, and it ripped the blinders off for the whole world to see a systemic racism. And this could potentially lead to a domino effect going forward
Yes.
in terms of reforms in the policing, reforms in legislation. Remember, there's one law which was passed recently by the lawmakers. It's called the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which awaits signature by Biden. So all in all, this could enforce accountability in the police force going forward.
Yes,
and
that's right.
also remove the unconstitutional policing and establish a standard for the use of force in such situations.
All right. Thank you very much, Ramesh. That's all we have time for. But many thanks for joining us with those very quick inputs. Thanks. And staying with international news, now let's get you some input from Myanmar. Protesters in southeast Myanmar held a candlelight vigil on Tuesday evening in remembrance of protesters killed in anti-coup demonstrations. The Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, an activist group, says 738 people have been killed by security forces since the first Feb coup, and 3,300 people are currently in detention, including 20 who have been sentenced to death. A spokesman for Myanmar's military has confirmed that junta leader Senior General Min Aung Hlaing will attend a meeting of Southeast Asian leaders at the weekend, Nikkei Asia reported on Wednesday. A suicide bomber targeted an Afghan security forces convoy in Kabul on Tuesday, according to the security officials. At least 5 people, including civilians and military personnel, were wounded in the incident, said Hamid Roshan, a deputy spokesman of the Interior Ministry. The loud blast shook the Afghan capital and plumes of smoke could be seen from distant rooftops, according to the witnesses. And it's time to get you some stories from the world of sports. And on Sports Prime, my colleague Suchitra joins us with more. Suchitra, good afternoon, over to you.
Good afternoon, Sakal, and there's some good news for Indian sports fans. Indian boxers posted a historic performance at the IBA Youth Men's and Women's World Boxing Championships as 8 boxers, including 7 women and 1 male boxer, sailed into the final on the 8th day. All the 7 Indian women boxers had put up a flawless performance as they progressed into the finals and will be aiming to add the yellow medal to their name. Among the men, Sachin was the only Indian boxer to progress into the finals. In total, Indian youth boxing team have created history by securing an unprecedented 11 medals. The previous best was 10 medals that the Indian contingent won at the World Youth Championships in 2018 in Hungary. All the women boxers will play their final bouts on Thursday, whereas Sachin will play the final on Friday. On to football now. All 6 Premier League teams involved in the European Super League have formally withdrawn from the competition. Manchester City were the first club to pull out after Chelsea had signalled their intent to do so by preparing documentation to withdraw. The other 4 sides, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United and Tottenham, have all now followed suit. English football's Big Six were part of a 12-team group, also containing Spain's Atletico Madrid, Barcelona and Real Madrid, and Italy's AC Milan, Inter Milan and Juventus, that announced plans to form the Breakaway League, which they hope to establish as a new midweek competition. It was condemned by fans, football authorities and politicians across Europe. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has welcomed a decision by 6 English Premier League clubs to quit the Super League project just 48 hours after they agreed to join Italian and Spanish teams in the controversial elite competition. The English clubs were under massive pressure from fans, politicians, soccer officials and even British royals, who said the Super League would boost the power and wealth of the elite clubs and hurt the game. The breakaway European Super League, rocked by the departure of its 6 English clubs, said it would now focus on efforts to reshape the project. In a statement, the league said that despite the announced departure of the English clubs forced to take such decisions due to the pressure on them, we are convinced our proposal is fully aligned with European law and regulations. Given the current circumstances, we shall reconsider the most appropriate steps to reshape the project. The remaining clubs in the Super League are Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid and Barcelona from Spain, and Inter Milan, AC Milan and Juventus from Italy. On to cricket now. Delhi Capitals shook off their history of defeats to the Mumbai Indians to record a 6-wicket win on a tough pitch in Chennai in Indian Premier League 2021. Amit Mishra was declared player of the match, picking 4 wickets for 24. Mishra had given up 10 runs in his opening over, the last of the power play, but then came back to break the game open and tear through Mumbai's big hitting lineup. He took out a free-flowing Rohit Sharma and Hardik Pandya in his second over, came back to outfox Kieron Pollard with a googly, and in his final over bowled Ishant Kishan with a yorker. Mishra's 4 for 24 was the best bowling figures for a Capitals bowler against Mumbai in IPL history. So those were some sports updates. Back to you, Sakal.
Thank you, Suchitra, for joining us on Sports Prime and on Midday Prime. Let's talk about Life Prime, which is the segment where we bring you stories from the world of art, cinema, culture, fashion, science and innovation. These are the stories that will make you smile, that are changing lives. Parisians have spotted an unusual sight on Sunday, with a replica of a 140-year-old electric car was driven around the center of town. Monday marked what is nominally regarded as the 140th anniversary of the first viable battery-powered electric vehicle. And to celebrate, a recreation of 1881 car was commissioned. The replica vehicle, which took 2 months to create, paid homage to French inventor and electrical engineer Gustave Trouve, who is believed to have driven the world's first rechargeable electric vehicle down in Rue du Valois in central Paris in April, way back in 1881. And with that, it's time to wrap up this edition of Midday Prime with a polite reminder: mask up India, to keep yourself safe and those your loved ones around you. Thank you very much for tuning in. Namaskar.